Well, the most obvious job of pastoring is the pulpit, preaching, teaching, and then maybe counseling and your prayers. Preaching, teaching, counseling, prayers, which is very important. But also there's a management part of people. You must understand what involves to manage people. If you don't understand how to manage people, you just be preaching and you won't have the desired impact you're supposed to have. So look at management of people. I divided to two parts, what I call sheep-to-sheep management and shepherd-to-sheep management. Sheep-to-sheep management, shepherd-to-sheep management. Very important. So I'll just give you a passage that has to do with sheep-to-sheep situation. Ezekiel 34, 17 to 22. Ezekiel 34, 17 to 22. Just read that at your spare time. Talking about how, God says he will judge between cattle, between sheep and sheep. Talking about, mature sheep, taking advantage of the immature sheep and all that. So you can read that at your spare time. So we want to look at management of sheep, management of people. Now, the first thing you must understand in management is divide the church into small groups. You can't pastor the church as a complete whole. Divide the church into small groups for easy management. Now, let me give you examples of some of them we are doing, but we need to be more deliberate. We have children's church, that's one group, teenage church, businessmen, singles, married, men, women. You need to divide the church into small groups. And you have mentoring groups. So you must have men, women, children, businessmen. Divide the people into small groups for proper management. You can't just pastor the church as a corporate whole like that, because some things are peculiar to certain groups. Married men, for example, married men, businessmen, professionals, the singles, the married, so you must divide the church to small groups, mentoring groups, if you call it that. That is important. Number two, in furtherance of that, you need to recruit leaders for those small groups. So don't just have small groups, recruit leaders. That means you must be able to look out for leaders who can head those small groups. You recruit them, you train them, release and supervise them to function in those small groups. So have somebody in charge of teenagers, for example, in charge of children, for example, in charge of businessmen, in charge of professionals, in charge of students, in charge of young people. You need to have short groups. And what is the purpose of those groups? Number one, to create bonding. It's easier to bond in a small group than in a wide corporate church. Businessmen will bond more easily than if they're in a larger group. So it's number one is to create bonding. Two, to help them, each person discover their purpose. So one reason for the small groups is bonding, discover purpose. Three, of course, evangelism. You can bring people to church because, I know a businessman, I know a professional, I know a teacher. For evangelism, that's for church growth. And of course, for follow-up. So if somebody is absent in a small group, the small group will know. The pastor might not know. Well, if you are still 20, 25, you can know who is absent, who is not absent. By the time you get to 50, 60, 100, 200, 300, you won't know who is absent. But if they are all if people are in small groups, they know, we didn't say so and so in church. That's part of management of people. So you need to, now, the rule of the thumb, don't have any department or group you don't have a leader for. That's the rule of the thumb. If you don't have a leader for a small group, it's not time for that small group. So don't go and create a group for business and don't have any man to lead it. We only start departments or groups when we have a leader. That's why you need to recruit, train, supervise, and release leaders to function. Once you have a leader, then form a small group. 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, not more than 12 to be on the safe side for proper management. We're talking about management of people. Now, the second thing about management of the people is you must have a leadership team. Between 3 and 5 people, it can be more than 5, but initially between 3 and 5, you have a leadership team. That's part of management, managing the people. So it's not just preaching Greek and Hebrew and casting out devils. You must have a leadership team that you need to recruit them. Now, recruitment of a leadership team is based on loyalty. Don't put people in your team who are not loyal to you. Recruitment, you need to train them. Now, you see, people who are very serious in church want more than the Sunday sermon. So if all you are doing is Sunday sermon, you are likely to lose people. So that's why when you have a leadership team, you train them on management, on real authority, and all those things. So have a leadership team. You don't just have meetings, have a training time, 15 minutes training before your meeting. You see, if you don't know more than your leadership team, they will outgrow you. And that's why you see sometimes some members leave the church because they have outgrown what the pastor knows. So have a leadership team, you are training them. The team will help you. So meet periodically, it could be once a month, once in 2 months. The team will review what has happened before before the meeting, review what has happened, preview and plan with them. Now, church is a theocracy, but a good pastor will carry his team along. So let them know we want to do a special program, we want to do this, let them have an input so that it's a corporate thing, they are all going together. So the second about management is you must have a leadership team. And then for your leadership team, you must demand higher standard. You must demand higher standard. Number one, punctuality. You know, something happened today in the headquarters. One of my leaders came late and I told them to tell her to sit at the back. Sit at the back. You know, why did you come? And I was asking that this evening, I said, I was not feeling fine. I said, that's not my business. That's the price of leadership. You can't come late as a leader. So you must demand higher standard from your leaders. Punctuality, giving, maturity, role modeling. But if you don't train them, you don't have a right to castigate them. So you need to understand, have a leadership. Number three, about management, is regularly teach the people on certain fundamental subjects. I'll give like 5. Self-esteem. Many people have a problem with self-esteem. You don't have to have a whole month to teach that. Just once in a while, have some of those teachings on self-esteem. That helps you in management. Very important. You teach regularly on self-esteem. You teach on purpose. What is your purpose in life? Purpose of your business, purpose of all that. You teach on self-esteem, purpose. You teach people on leadership. This by talking about management. Because if you have educated people, when I say educated, spiritually educated in things of life, it becomes easier to manage the church. Somebody has a proper self-esteem, it's easy to manage that person. Somebody understands purpose, he knows he cannot dabble into what is not his purpose. Somebody understands leadership, you know what he's supposed to do. So you must learn this thing yourself and teach people on self-esteem, purpose, leadership, ethics. Many people, I don't know about UK and South Africa, people have a problem with work ethic here. One of my HOD, for example, did not come to church on Thursday because he said he did not have transport money. I'm still going to see him on that. So he didn't come to church because he didn't have transport money. So my thinking is if he works for the government, works for the president of Nigeria, we will not go to work because he doesn't have transport money. Work ethic. So we need to, so if people understand this, it'll be easier to manage now. They will not come late to church. Work ethic, teach on finances and investments. We're talking about management of people. Now, what I do in headquarters is every Thursday, I teach on leadership for about 15, 20 minutes. We call it the Leadership Academy. Every Thursday, I teach 15 to at most 25 minutes on the various aspects of leadership. Then on Sundays, when I'm in church, I teach what I call the Top 10 Talk. 10 minutes on how to achieve the top 10 mandate. They will say that visions to make lives count here and hereafter. Be a top 10 in your chosen field. So I teach on things you need to do to get to the top 10. Today now I talked about basic communication in formal and semi-formal environments. Now, if you teach these things, you're able to manage the people better. They understand what they are doing. Number 4, on management of the people, you need to teach on cohesiveness of the church. Cohesiveness of the church. Ephesians 4:3 says, endeavoring to keep unity of the spirit in the bond of peace. If you teach people on being cohesive, being, we're one body, you have less conflict of strife, division, and church split. So that means teach on offenses. Church is a place where people are free. People are going to offend. That's why you must teach on self-esteem, on purpose, on leadership. People will offend you in church. So don't say because you're offended, you leave the church or you stop being a Christian. So teach on offenses. Offenses will come. You're going to be insulted. A wise man ignores insult. You teach on forgiveness. Somebody offends you, forgive the person who front for your own sake. Teach on forgiveness. You teach on love. All this is part of management. Teach on offenses, forgiveness, love. Teach on the fact that we are a group, we're a family. So there will be family issues, family squabbles, and we need to settle it. It's all part of management of the people. Number 5, part of management of people is to protect the sheep. There are some things you need to do to protect the sheep. In the church, there are some people are weak, some are strong, some are outgoing, some are outgoing. You need to protect the sheep. That's why I gave you that passage in Ezekiel. So protecting the sheep means, number 1, nobody can have a vision or a dream or a word from the Lord for another church member without consulting the pastor. So no member can say, I want to see Brother John. I had a dream about you. God gave me a word. That is totally unacceptable. They must see the pastor first. Let the pastor know about the revelation, the dream, of the vision. Else they're going to destroy the church. So it's part of management. So if I have a revelation as a church member for another church member, I go to the pastor and tell him, Pastor, I had a revelation about Brother so and so. Then the pastor has to decide whether you need to share it or not share it. So no word for church members and another church member. The pastor must be informed first, so we don't destroy the church by sometimes, so-called word from the Lord or vision or dreams. And the pastor decides not to tell the person, it's up to the pastor. You can decide now to tell the person yourself or let the person tell the person, but you must be sure that person is mature enough to say it correctly. I've had cases where somebody was having some funny revelation about church members, and I had to stop that kind of thing to destroy the church. Part of church management. Part of church management also has to do with finances. So church members are not good with financial matters. So as a church policy, I don't know what will be in South Africa and UK now. Any transaction above 25,000 naira, the pastor must be informed. Now, people make the mistake. They inform the pastor after they have concluded the transaction. No, you inform the pastor before there's any transaction. Because if you have concluded the transaction, I can't do anything about that. So let me know. Excuse me, sir. Somebody came to me. He wants us to do a business together, and we're going to discuss. I will say, no, don't do business with that person. And I'll tell no, and I tell the person, you are not good in handling money. But many people, they tell me they have discussed, they made arrangements, they've had meetings. Now it comes to the finances, the pastor, we have been arranging. At that point, it's too late for me to do anything. So any business above 25,000 naira, now we have to have a policy for UK and South Africa. The pastor must be pre-informed, so people are not taking advantage of financially. Because this thing is part of management. Some people, they have a good business idea, but they are not good in financial management. Some can borrow, they won't pay back. You cause unnecessary stress within the church. So before the transaction begins at all, you need to announce this as part of management of the people. You want to do any business, you want to give somebody a loan, you want to, any financial transaction above 25,000 naira, let me know before you start discussion. Not after you have concluded, you had 10 meetings, you now want to sign, you now call me. It's too late at that point. So it's important we do that. Also on finances, as much as possible, have a benevolence department. It's difficult for a pastor to say no to any benevolence request. But have the benevolence department, get 2 or 3 people who are in charge of benevolence. Anybody needs any money, let them go to that person. That's part of management. Number 6, about management. Now, as a church policy, we don't guarantee or stand surety for people, for members. Somebody wants to get a job as an accountant, so somebody has to guarantee. The pastor cannot guarantee. We can only act as a reference. It's church policy. Somebody wants to get a loan. Our pastor wants to get a loan. Please, can you be my guarantor? Don't guarantee anybody, because if that person does not pay back and they arrest you and take you to jail, you start prison ministry there. But we can stand the reference. Nobody wants to get a job. Mr. So and so is well known to me as a member of this church. I hereby recommend you for this job. We'll do that, but not guarantor. It's part of shepherdship management. Don't guarantee anybody. Don't stand bail or don't be a surety in police station for somebody. The person has a family. Say, I don't know anybody. No. You have neighbors. So please, let's understand this about church management. Then number 7, Be discreet with the opposite sex. It's part of church management. Be discreet with the opposite sex. Now, you see, we must have boundaries. It's usually the men that have a problem here. We must have boundaries. If you don't want to ruin your ministry, then you must have boundaries with the opposite sex. Now, don't keep giving a particular lady a ride in your car. Now, nothing might happen, but you see, don't let your good be evil spoken of. Now, I hardly give any lady a ride in my car. If I have to, they know the route. They sit at the back, not in the front. But they will hardly ever ask, except in very rare cases. So have your boundaries. Don't give gifts to the opposite sex. If you're going to give a gift, let it be from pastor and missus, not from you as a male person. Don't give a gift to a female person and say, this is your birthday. This is, I traveled to America. I brought you this wristwatch. No, let it be Mr. and Mrs. These are boundaries. This is shepherdship management. Okay? So be careful. Don't just buy gifts for people. As a matter of policy, I hardly buy gifts for church members. If I have to buy a gift, it's because either you're a pastor or a pastor's wife. So you must have these boundaries. Do you understand? Avoid intimate language with the opposite sex. Like I said, this mainly affects men usually. I love you, I appreciate you, I'm missing you. No, those are dangerous words. So. They're dangerous words, very dangerous words. So avoid those kind of words. Avoid touching. Avoid sending text messages that can be misconstrued. I tell the church, there's some things you don't document. Number one, you don't document your anger. When you're angry, don't do any documentation. Don't send somebody a stinker. When you're angry, don't do any documentation, because it's going to be, there's a particular couple, they had a serious scuffle between themselves. The lady sent me a text, I can never live with him again. I said, I will keep this text till we get to heaven. Unfortunately, the phone has spoiled. I look at it. Now, when they are talking to me, they are now holding. I say, you that can never live with this guy. They are now ganging up against me. And I say, I will tell my husband. I say, So don't document your anger. When you're angry, don't send it. Not just in church, in your office. When you're angry, don't send an email, don't send a memo. Let your anger cool down. So we're talking about shepherdship management. Then finally, you must maintain your, how do I say it now? You must have a distance between you and the sheep without being distant. I'll explain that. Have a distance between you and the sheep without being distant. If you are too familiar with the sheep, it's not good shepherdship management. You must be available, but don't be always available. Too much familiarity breeds contempt. So let's be available, relate to people, but don't make yourself too available that you lose your respect. Very important. So we relate to people, play with people, but be careful that you don't become familiar with the people. Anointing works on estimation. If you are familiar with somebody, the anointing will not work for that person. He has come again. What is he saying? That God will bless me. I know God will bless me. But you see, when you now make some pronouncement because you're not familiar, it is esteemed highly, it works on it. That's why you see when you invite a guest speaker to a church, the guest speaker is saying exactly what the pastor has said for the past 30 years. But he seems to get more results. Why? Because he's esteemed highly. Say, this man of God, I just come back from China. He had a miracle service in China, who gave their life to Christ. And then he went to Taiwan, then from Malaysia. He's here for 2 days in Nigeria. He's a man of God, Holy Ghost and fire. So we esteem him highly. When he just says what he has been saying for the past 10 years, people just begin to clap and roll on the floor because of estimation. So don't get too familiar with your church members that when you tell them something, they now take it as common. It's shepherdship management. Relate with people, but don't get too close to anybody. The rule of thumb, don't have a friend in the church. Don't have a friend in the church. Every member is a member of the church, not your friend. A friend means I can come to your house, I can eat, I can drink, then we watch football together. You're a Chelsea fan, I'm an Arsenal fan. There's no respect in football. We beat you yesterday. Our pastor, we beat you silly. People are just useless people. I mean, that's football language. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's your pastor you're talking that you useless people. Your coach, all of you, Arsenal fans, all the Chelsea fans, you are just fine. So don't now watch football with your members. You become common. So that's part of shepherdship management. See, the extreme of that is when you're not accessible at all. Some pastors, you have to book 6 months to see them as church members. You book 6 months, there's protocol A, protocol B, protocol C to see the person. No, that's an extreme. The other extreme is you can see pastor anytime. Anytime. When can I see you? I'm always free. No, you're not always free. They're always free. Then you're not going to work much when you're available. So let's understand this about sheep to sheep management, shepherd to sheep management. So it's not just preaching and all that. There's management of the people. So let's understand that. If there are any questions, we'll take questions on this, on management of people. Okay, any questions?